Hey everybody, this is your boy Shamoy, also known as Rob. I'm just coming out with a quick video, just kind of compiling a lot of the pictures I've taken and posted on some Godzilla Facebook groups, just kind of showing off the new Super 7 Ultimate Godzilla 1989, also known as Bio Goji. Just kind of getting it out there for more people to kind of get eyes on it and hopefully just kind of push for a better change for the next release in this line. I don't want to be too critical or too negative with it, but I will say it has been more of a disappointing figure in a lot of regards. And I think a lot of the pictures hopefully will kind of make my point clear. I wouldn't say it's like the worst Godzilla figure out there or even terrible. I think there's just a lot of points about it that needed a second look around and some more work done just to kind of fix it. But for the price point, about $80 or so around the MSRP, definitely doesn't feel like that and feels like it's lacking a lot. And I understand Super 7's style is supposed to be more of a retro feel, but there's a lot of things here that just don't really encapsulate that feeling, especially with some of their other projects that they've thrown out. And what other companies have done to also capture a retro feel. But I guess we'll just start going into that right now. It's the pictures that he took. So here we see the tail initially out of the box. The overall shape of the tail is really weird. It kind of has like a weird squished sausage look and too many spines on it that don't really narrow out. It just looks really off. Here you kind of see that's the tail at max flatness. It can't actually go flat. A lot of the joints there's a lot of joints, but they don't really help in its movement, as we'll see later on. Thankfully, nothing really pops off, so that's a huge plus about this figure. Here we see the huge gap where the tail plugs into. It is very noticeable, and as somebody who doesn't really care with my gaps on my schmaz, this really bothers me a lot. It really feels like there's a piece missing that should be there. Here it is supposed to be flat. A lot of the joints there, the spines kind of misalign themselves just from basic moving. And you're kind of already seeing a big problem with it. It's the glossiness. It has a very high gloss seal on it, and it is very noticeable and distracting, along with its weird proportions. It looks like this Godzilla has went on some sort of diet and has lost a lot of his mass. Here we kind of see another big problem is where the tail connects. It is very loose. It can't hold its weight. Along with that, you can kind of see even when you bend the tail or move it, it wants to droop down. It doesn't really want to hold the pose. Here we're seeing just a little bit of the initial face sculpt. The actual details and sculpt of the whole figure and even the face is pretty good, but the paint, how thick it is applied on there, and the gloss finish really hurt it a lot. Been thinking about matte coating it to help kind of dye that down, and hopefully that will kind of help bring out more of that sculpt and not hide it anymore. But one thing that does really need to be worked upon, especially for the next release, is the teeth paint. It is Gamera 3 level bad here. And here we're seeing the maximum movement of the tail. If you try to move it normally you would, compared to the schma. All those cuts and ball joints in there don't really give you much to work with. It's very disappointing. Here it is. If you twist the entire tail to one side, you can kind of get some of that movement again, but you are breaking up the sculpt and you're not really using the joints as you should be, as you would think they would be. You're pretty much twisting the tail up and then twisting it right there at the base where it plugs into, and basically you could do the same thing with the schma and get even more movement out of it, but it just looks bad when you do that. So a lot of the tail movement is going to be this joint here that really controls where you can move, but it's so loose. I'm guessing glue or something can help tighten it, because like it is just, oh, there it goes. It's easy to move side to side, and that's how you're going to have to kind of recreate it, but overall, like, it doesn't even really want to hold up in the air once you start doing it. It starts going down, 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 down. And here we see, and as you see, it's already moving down. It's going down, and just over time, this thing is just going to drop, 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 drop. A lot of it right here just is the kind of, oh yeah. You can lock and load your Godzilla and then blast off. And here's just even more compared with another Bio Goji you may have, which is the NECA one. This one I'm using is their Bio version, which also has a really high gloss on it, but it's not as glossy as the other one. And here's some more pictures I took with a little bit, I think, better lighting, where you have it with the Biolante that it came with, which is a slightly better figure, but also has a lot of problems with it. The gloss in a little more, I guess, white lighting or more intense lighting, you can really see it bounces off and it hard to look at. It doesn't really look great. It really just, yeah, it needs a matte coat. The glossy finish is really bad. Here we just have a look at the accessories both come with. I will say props to Super7. They do give you a lot of accessories for both releases, something that not a lot of other Godzilla companies really give. And I will say on all of Super7's products, they really put a lot in there. Here we're just gonna get some close-ups of the face. Again, the glossiness on there just, it's very distracting. And the teeth paint again, just very just forced on there. The mouth inside, actually everything else in there looks great. If you can kind of see the white dots in his eye is not a glare from the light. It's actually painted on faux glares that if we'll see later on closer up look really bad. But right now, as you can kind of see, the overall head sculpt and detail of it, that you can see in there, is actually really good, and I do give huge props. But you can kind of see where the head meets the neck area, the drop in quality, and how it got more soft. Here again is just more just the front facing, where you just see the proportions just being really off. And part of that too is to kind of get him standing up straight in a neutral pose. You kind of have to move the thighs forward and shift the knees down, which kind of throws it off even more because you can't actually stand straight up without doing the splits. Here's a little bit more of his alt head. Again, side profile view. Again, you kind of see where the detail of the head into the neck, there's a huge drop in quality, where the neck really gets very muddied and loses a lot of that sharp detail that the head has up there. It kind of makes it feel like it's a whole different toy's head that you put onto a different body. The teeth paint just being very globbed on there, where it kind of all just becomes like he has a banana in his mouth or a melon. The eye part, I will say, is done pretty well. I would say the orange in it, I don't like. This was a small request in a Discord chat. Somebody wanted to see the Super7 head on the NECA body. Honestly, if I could get that neck part off of the NECA, the head actually would fit in there pretty well. I don't know, it would look okay, but maybe not that great. But you can already see the Bio NECA Godzilla is very glossy, but still is not as glossy as this Super7 Godzilla, which is very surprising, since that used to be one of the glossier figures in my collection. Here's kind of his articulation, doing how far he can do the splits. He can really get his arms really high in the air, although one's can't go as high as the other for some reason. I think it's the sculpt. He can kind of scratch his head. The arm movement actually feels really nice. The leg movement feels terrible. There's a lot of grinding up against plastic there, and it's really hard to kind of move a lot of the pieces. Actually, with the shoulders, there's a lot of scraping of plastic and some damage you'll see later on. You can't do a full 360. I had to take the tail off here because it was actually kind of really annoying to try to move him into any position, because the tail would just kind of flop everywhere and kind of get in your way. Here we have him next to the two Monster Arts Bio Gojis I have in my collection, the Kyoko one and the, I guess, regular 6-inch version. And you can really see the difference in quality. Surprisingly enough, the Monster Arts had a lot more range of movement. I was really surprised that the 6-inch Bio Goji could do a full splits. I didn't remember it being able to do that. Here it is with the Shma and the NECA. Again, just the glossiness really stands out with it compared to the other two. Proportion wise, again, you really see where just the proportions are off. Here's really something really sad, where the NECA's tail has a better range of movement than the Super7. And the NECA was probably priced around $30 for this one, and the Super 7's running about 80. Again, here just in the comparison with the Shma and just seeing that tail movement. I know tail's not everything, but for a Godzilla product, the tail is kind of a crowning achievement if you can do it really good. People love to see how well the tails can move. Here's some comparisons with the Biollante that came with it. Here with the Shma, which I think looks really nice. I always kind of pictured Biollante being bigger than Godzilla in the movie, in both forms. I think this is a pretty good comparison, but I think right here, the NECA one actually works a lot better than any of them. I'm very surprised about that. If you pick up the Zeto head and replace the kind of funny dog-looking one on the NECA one, you probably have a really good, close to perfect Bio-Goji as you can get. Here, it's kind of surprising that Godzilla, even with his legs shifted and bent down, he's still taller than Rose Biollante, which is actually kind of disappointing and a problem. Because I believe he is supposed to be a bit shorter than her. Here are the boxes with the sleeves on them. I will say the way they designed the boxes and they did it, 10 out of 10. It's a really premium feel and a really good sleeve that I even think Monster Arts doesn't really compare to. There's just kind of it with the sleeve off where you can see the plastic insert. You can see where the figure would actually be in. Really nice color, really nice design. I really like it. And here you kind of see the back of the box. For both products, it's the same description, just kind of detailing the movie. I do appreciate that. I think that's really nice. I think Smalls might have a little bit of a blurb on the backs, but they're mainly in Japanese, so you can't really read it. Here's some pictures of the Super 7 Ultimate with some 8-inch Band-Aids I had. So it's the Godzilla 2004 and the Monster X. You can just really see there's a lot of really good detail on these 8-inch Band-Aids that were from like way back in the day, about 2004-ish, right? And really it is that, in my opinion, the glossy finish on it that really hinders a lot of it. There is some good detail on this, but the heavy paint job and the gloss finish really ruin it. Here we go with the Godzilla Rebirth, which if you're a small collector, you probably have many of these repaints in your collection. Again, the Rose Bio with the smallest Godzillas go pretty well together. She might be a little bit too big, but overall, pretty great. If you don't have the YMSF one, Super 7's a great alternative, but it does have problems. One, it's lacking a lot of paint in a lot of places. The rose and teeth really need it. It does have a problem with the tentacles sagging now. At least with mine, they're very loose, and they also like to pop out a lot. As we see here, just more of just the differences in proportions and that gloss finish. It's just them together. I actually really like this photo with all three of them in there. But yeah, Rose Bio is probably the stronger of the two, but still she has a lot of problems going in. Also, the alt head, the screaming head you see on her, that pops off a lot. Here we see just more close-ups of the face and me pointing out the white fake glare that they put in there. In this photo, it actually is over the pupil, and I think it's a little the paint dropped over and it kind of ruined the eye. There you kind of see the white glares aren't even really aligned, so he looks more off. It makes you think in your brain that those are his pupils, and now he has googly eyes, but he doesn't. Behind those white paint apps are actually really good painted eyes. You can see a little bit more of the brown eye with the black pupil. Really nice. Don't know why it's orange though. That's more of a burning Godzilla thing. I believe his iris is like the white of the eyes should be white, not orange. Just more of just on both heads. I don't know why they did this. If my biggest thing I would want to see change on the next release is get rid of that. It looks really bad. It doesn't really help the figure and kind of ruins these really nicely painted eyes that you put time and effort into it. And on both heads, like one of the white glares is like right dead center of the pupil. Now my Godzilla has a cataract. And again, just the teeth paint needs to be worked on. The prototype they showed at some convention some years ago, the teeth were painted way better. Here we have it with this accessory, the vine wraparound effect. Pretty easy. It's a softer plastic. Really easy to just kind of put the head in there and then pop it onto the figure. Will say really easy to switch the heads on this figure. I never felt like it's going to break or anything. That's one good thing about this figure. It feels super light and it does feel really cheap when you first pull it out. But a lot of the movement and stuff, I never felt like I'm going to break anything. Even when I'm trying to push it to the test with the tail or the movement or articulation. Popping off the hands, the heads, feels perfect to move. Feels really good. Something that I don't really feel even on the schmaz, trying to swap out accessories. Probably the funnest thing about this particular toy is just moving the head, putting new hands on. I would say moving the joints, but the legs and the tail don't really like to move. And there is, especially the legs, there's a lot of scraping of plastic against plastic on there, and it makes me a little bit worried to move those. The arms on the shoulders is where it's at too, and I already have some damage on the figure already from it, which is disappointing since, that's another thing they need to work on, is just how they're doing these points of articulation. Because again, these are action figures. They're supposed to move. You're supposed to play with them. Again, if they wanted statues, then they should have just made statues. All right. If the articulation isn't doing great, it's not going to do great. Here's some other photos, just of him in a little action pose, kind of pointing to you with his alternate kind of claw hands. Looking a little bit fun. Again, I really do appreciate the accessories that Super7 did point into this. Here he is. So this is him with his legs straight out. No bend or anything, and you can't see. It gives him some unnatural split. You can't push it in closer like that at all. That's just how it is in the most neutral pose. Here he is with the thighs shifted forward and the knees bent. That's pretty much how you're going to have him if you want him in a neutral pose, which kind of throws off the proportions a little bit. Especially when you're taking front-facing pictures or even side pictures. He's always going to be kind of doing a squat. Here he is doing a spot pose from somebody else's, inspired by somebody else's figure in a Discord group I'm in. And more kind of not natural, but more like typical room lighting, I guess. Here he is saying, "You created me." Again, the hand accessories are really nice, and I do appreciate that. One thing to point out too is his neck area, the actual neck area. It does not kind of give you any backward or forward movement. It can only really turn around in 360. Here he is pointing at the new SH Monster Arts Gamera, and on my little work desk right here. Again, these claw hands are really nice. Again, Super7 did great with accessory wise. Oh, here's me kind of pointing out. It kind of looks like the bind attachment on the Bio Goji actually doesn't match the same color that they actually painted the Rose Biolante. That's really surprising. Here was kind of a picture somebody requested just to see where these were made. Both of the figures here are made in China. I'm not sure how Super7 factories are kind of split up. I know with SH Monster Arts, they kind of have a Chinese factory and they also have a Vietnam factory. And there's been kind of significant quality differences in both of these factories. I don't know which one's actually better or worse, but I don't know if that same also applies to Super7 now. Here we go. This is me kind of showing off how the Rose Biolante, at least on mine, the vines, they're all on pegs, including the leaves. They're all peg joints, and mine are all super loose. They don't really want to hold their pose. They want to go down. You can kind of get in poses for a little bit, but there is a big worry that over time it is just going to droop, and that's it. Here's showing that these two fins behind Goji's neck are actually one piece. I don't know why they are. I don't know if it's a defect. I don't know if this was a design choice, but it really just screams like no other of his fins are fused like this. For some reason, these ones are. It's just adding on a lot of these little things that add up to kind of a bigger disappointment with this figure. It's just like, I can fix this, but what I paid for it, like, why should I? Where the red circles are showing where kind of actual plastic damage, not even seal damage, plastic damage, where I've raised the shoulders up, grinding against the inner part of the chest area. It's already kind of doing some noticeable damage. So now I have to be more careful, or I might want to actually take the arms out and kind of Dremel around that area to give it a little more leeway so when I move things around. But again, it's like, for how much you pay for this, this really shouldn't be a problem. This isn't a retro style. This is just not thinking out your product fully, especially with the movement and articulation. It's a lot of this is just, this shouldn't be a thing for this price point. This shouldn't be a thing on most action figures in general, where you're just actually using it as an action figure and now it's causing it damage, and not even roughly or anything, because the arms especially too are probably the part of the figure that is the easiest to move. They're the funnest to move, so you can play around with it, because the legs kind of suck to move. The tail doesn't want to do anything. The head and neck joint don't really do anything either. This is just not a mess of a figure. I think just very disappointing of a figure overall. I don't think I would say, again, is it bad? No, I don't think I would actually say that. I would say it's a very average or even below average figure. If I thought it was terrible or like bad or just something where like the line shouldn't continue on, then I'd probably would just have sent this straight to people like the super unimportant review guys, just to have it hammered and smashed. I don't feel that way towards it. It just feels really disappointing. Before Haya's announcement, I was really excited to have another kind of action figure line of Godzilla figures. I was really excited that it was another American company after NECA had let go of the license, and Playmates was just kind of... Playmates is its own thing, and it is more toy gimmicky stuff rather than really, good action figures. And even though the initial promos showed it as stylized, it wasn't going to be one-to-one accuracy, I was okay with that. I just liked another line that was going to have a little bit more more detail, better paint, slight focus on articulation. And what I kind of saw with some of other Super7's other products was that it seemed like they kind of prioritized fun, they prioritized accessories, they prioritized that kind of stuff. Articulation might come second to the sculpt wise, but you could still get a good amount of poses and fun, and your figures would look good. I think the Thundercats and their He-Man waves really kind of got my expectations up. Oh, and their Ninja Turtles wave. But these here it's a really poor start to a new line, that these are your first two products. It really should have been a hit, a home run for them. Especially when you watch their kind of promo videos talking about the line and how they really meant a lot to them and how important it was to them. You would think that it would be kind of been taken care of a lot more. Fortunately, I don't know where the ball got dropped. I don't know if it might be more of a factory side versus, the people dotting the I's and signing the T's. Honestly, at the end, I couldn't really recommend these to anyone. To a new fan, to an old collector, to somebody who's just interested in getting a new Godzilla. You have two choices for a good Bio-Goji figure. You could save up a little bit more, maybe $100 or so, and buy it by the SH Monster Arts aftermarket. You got a pretty close to perfect figure right there. You could probably spend maybe $40, at most $50 for one of the older NECA Bio-Gojis. And you have two different versions you can get. You can get the normal version, and you can get the Bio version to go with your Biollante. And there's Zeto heads out there to give it a more accurate looking head. And I would say those two would be better products to get than this right now. If it was cheaper, if it was more in the $40 range, maybe $50 too, just because it's kind of a more, I guess, made to order product, which just saying that now makes me feel more disappointed that these are technically made to order. And this is the quality you kind of get versus like if you grab like a Playmates figure. I mean, every other Playmates figure is going to be about the same quality, but you look at the promo picture for it, you're going to get what you get, versus you look at the promo pictures for this and it looks like a whole different figure. And I get that happens, but like Shima and NECA, when they would show their promos, like they're closer. Yeah, I would say there are better options out there for you if you do just need a Bio-Goji in your collection. For the Rose Biollante, there really are just two options for you. You can either get this, or you can spend a little bit more and get the YMS figure and just have a better scaled Rose Biollante. But yeah, in conclusion, I can't really recommend these to anybody. If you can find them on sale, check Big Bad Toy Store, check Entertainment Earth. If they're going to be up there for a while, they probably are going to go on sale. That might be a good way. If you can get it for half price, you'll be a good deal. One thing I don't want to see, though, I don't want to see the Ultimate line for them to end. I think they just need to just kind of review a lot of the choices they made on these two figures, and for their second and third wave, just really make some changes. Matte coating, spending more time on teeth paint, making sure that the tail joints can actually hold itself and actually can move. I hope they continue on with it. I know with Super7, pretty much, if those don't make their goal, then that'll be the end for the Ultimate Godzilla line. That's kind of how it just goes with Super7 products. They have had a couple already. RIP Rescue Rangers. But yeah, I don't want it to end, especially not like this. I really want to see it to kind of continue on flourish, but I do think they need to really go back and double think a lot of the choices, especially that they made on here. Because I think there are great figures here. They're just kind of hidden under a lot of, mistakes or bad decisions. But that's pretty much it. I just wanted to get my pictures out here and get kind of more of my initial thoughts out there to everyone. Again, if you like the figure, that's great. I wish I could like it more. Maybe over time, after I do some touch up on it, it might be a little bit better, but there is a lot to touch up here. All right, well, that's it. And if you like this video, cool. Hey, everybody, just want to give you a quick update. Really want to thank Steven from Steven Toys Reviews for just kind of pointing out. He just said to double check if the tail was fully inserted. I think I had shown in my initial pictures that the tail had kind of a bigger gap here. As you can see now, it definitely looks a lot better. What the problem was on mine, I guess I didn't notice it when I was first kind of going through it, was that the joint here, where it plugs into, there was a little bit of excess plastic in there. So when I put in the tail, it went in and stopped, and it was snug. It was a snug fit, but I didn't realize there was a little bit of plastic in there that was stopping the tail joint on the body from actually inserting all the way in. So I took an X-Acto knife, shaved it out, and as you can see, the gap is a lot better now. Definitely a improvement look-wise. Articulation-wise, however, it is still loose in there. Still not the tightest fit, but at least it looks better. So if you're, somebody just puts it on your shelf when you're done or poses, you will get a better look. And just update, just make sure you double check the tail joint to make sure there's no excess plastic stopping you, and make sure that when you plug it in, you really force it in there. Really wants to go in, and you should have a nice clean fit like that. A small update, just want to say thank you to STR Steven for just giving me the heads up on that, because I would not have noticed that without that being brought to my attention, because it really did feel like an already good fit the first time I put it in there. But yeah, just double check for any excess plastic inside the inner joint.